I never thought a half-open garage door could nearly destroy my family's life. One Saturday morning, two uniformed officers showed up at our front door, badges flashing, demanding to speak about a serious HOA violation that could lead to fines, liens, or even forced entry. My heart dropped when I saw the patrol car parked outside, until my wife calmly invited them in and said, "Please, tell us exactly what the problem is." What they said next made my blood run cold, and what we discovered later, it exposed something way darker than any of us imagined. My name is Alex, and my wife Sarah and I moved into this quiet suburban neighborhood in Willow Creek 2 years ago. We loved the tree-lined streets, the community pool, and the fact that everyone seemed friendly, at least on the surface. We bought a beautiful 4-bedroom house with a big garage where I keep my tools and my old Mustang project car. Sarah works from home as a graphic designer, and I'm a software engineer, so we're usually around during the day. Life was peaceful until Karen entered the picture. Karen Thompson is the HOA president, mid-50s, perfectly highlighted blonde bob, always in pastel cardigans and pearls, the kind of woman who smiles while writing you up for having a lawn one blade too long. From day one, she made it clear she had opinions about our house. First, it was the color of our mailbox, apparently one shade too dark. Then it was the solar lights along our walkway that she claimed were too bright and disturbed the aesthetic. We fixed everything she asked, paid the small fines, and tried to stay on her good side. We thought that was the end of it. But Karen had been watching our garage like a hawk. Our garage door has this old sensor that sometimes glitches, leaving the door open about a foot overnight if we forget to double-check. It happened maybe 3 or 4 times in the last year, never long enough for anything to go missing, and we always closed it first thing in the morning. Most neighbors didn't even notice, but Karen noticed. She started leaving passive-aggressive notes on our door. "Please remember to close your garage. Safety concern for the community." Then the notes turned into official HOA violation letters with $50 fines attached. We paid them just to avoid drama. Then, about a month ago, things escalated fast. I came home from getting coffee one morning and found a bright orange sticker slapped on our garage door. "Final warning, chronic violation, immediate compliance required." Sarah and I laughed it off at first. How serious could a garage door really be? We even joked about framing the sticker. We installed a new smart garage opener that sends phone alerts if the door stays open more than 10 minutes. Problem solved, right? Wrong. 2 weeks later, on a chilly Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen making pancakes while Sarah was watering her indoor plants. The doorbell rang, 3 sharp, impatient knocks. I opened the door and froze. 2 police officers stood there, both in full uniform, one with his hand resting near his belt. Behind them, a marked patrol car sat in our driveway, lights off but unmistakably official. "Good morning, sir," the taller officer said, voice flat. "We're responding to a complaint from the Homeowners Association regarding a repeated safety violation at this address. We need to speak with the homeowners immediately." My stomach twisted. Police for a garage door? I stammered something about it being a misunderstanding, but Sarah appeared beside me, cool as ever. She glanced at their badges, then smiled politely and said, "Officers, please, come in. We'll cooperate fully. Can you tell us exactly what the complaint states?" They stepped inside, boots heavy on our hardwood floor, and I swear the air felt 10 degrees colder. The shorter officer pulled out a notepad and started reading. "Multiple reports of an unsecured garage presenting a safety hazard to the neighborhood, potential for theft, vandalism, or unauthorized entry. The HOA president states the violation has continued despite repeated warnings and fines. We're here to document compliance and, if necessary, issue a municipal citation that could result in daily penalties until resolved." My face felt hot. Karen had actually called the police on us for a garage door that was closed 99% of the time? I started to explain about the new smart garage opener, but Sarah gently touched my arm and said, "Let them finish." The taller officer continued, "Ma'am, sir, we've been informed that the homeowner has been uncooperative and that the open garage has been observed as recently as last night. The complainant provided photographic evidence and requested law enforcement assistance to ensure immediate correction." Photographic evidence? Last night? Our garage was closed since 7 p.m. I remembered because I'd gone out to lock it myself after taking the trash out. Something felt off, way off. Then the shorter officer looked around our living room, eyes lingering on our family photos, and said something that made the hairs on my neck stand up. We may need to inspect the garage to confirm current status. If it's non-compliant, we are authorized to require it remain closed and sealed until a hearing. Sealed? As in they could force us to stop using our own garage? My mind raced. My Mustang, my tools, Sarah's holiday decorations, everything was in there. I glanced at Sarah, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of worry in her eyes, too. That's when she did something brilliant. Instead of arguing or showing the app on her phone proving the door had been closed, she looked straight at the officers and asked calmly, "Before we proceed, can you tell us who exactly filed this complaint and when the most recent alleged violation occurred? We'd like to understand the full situation." The officers exchanged a quick glance, and the taller one hesitated just for a second, but that little pause changed everything, because what they said next revealed the first crack in Karen's perfect plan, and it was only the beginning of what was really going on. The taller officer cleared his throat and flipped a page on his notepad. The complaint was filed by Karen Thompson, HOA president, at 6:42 this morning. She states the garage door was observed open from approximately 11 p.m. last night until 5 a.m. and included time-stamped photos as evidence. Sarah's eyebrows lifted just slightly, the only sign she was rattled. "Photos from inside our garage?" she asked sweetly. "Because our security cameras would have caught anyone close enough to take those." The officers shifted their weight. The shorter one mumbled something about the photos being exterior shots showing the door raised, but his partner cut him off with a quick look. That glance lasted half a second, but it screamed that something wasn't adding up. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Officers, our garage has been closed since yesterday evening. We have a new smart opener. Here, I'll show you the app history." I pulled out my phone, opened the MyQ app, and scrolled to last night. Clear as day. Door closed 7:18 p.m. No activity since. The taller officer leaned in to look, and I saw his jaw tighten. He straightened up and said, "Sir, we're just responding to the call we received. The complainant was quite insistent." Sarah smiled again, but this time it had an edge. Insistent enough to request police involvement on a Saturday morning for a garage door? That seems extreme. That's when the shorter officer made his first real mistake. He shrugged and said, "Ma'am, Mrs. Thompson told dispatch this wasn't the first time and that the homeowners had ignored certified letters. She said if we didn't respond promptly, she'd escalate to the city council and request a lien on the property by Monday." A lien? Over a garage door? My pulse was hammering now. Karen had gone from notes to fines to threatening our actual home ownership in weeks. But Sarah stayed ice calm. She tilted her head and asked, "Did Mrs. Thompson happen to mention that we installed the new opener specifically to address her concerns? Or that we've paid every fine without protest?" Another awkward silence. The officers clearly hadn't been briefed on any of that. I decided to push. "Can we see the photos she submitted, just so we understand what exactly was reported?" The taller officer hesitated again, then shook his head. "We don't have the images with us. They're attached to the HOA's formal complaint file, but we can radio dispatch to confirm details." He stepped toward the door to use his radio, and that's when everything went sideways. Sarah's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. She glanced at it and her face changed, eyes widening for a split second before she masked it. She turned the screen toward me. A notification from our Ring doorbell camera. Motion detected, front porch 30 seconds ago. But no one had come to the door since the officers arrived. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Sarah whispered, "Check the live feed." I opened the Ring app. The front porch camera showed an empty doorstep, but the side camera, the one facing the driveway, caught something else. A figure in a pastel cardigan hurrying away from the patrol car toward the street. Blonde bob, pearls glinting in the morning sun. Karen. She'd been here, watching. I showed the screen to the officers without a word. The shorter one's face went pale. The taller one muttered something. "That's the complainant." Sarah's voice was steel now. "Officers, it looks like Karen is on our property right now. Would you like to speak with her?" Before they could answer, the radio on the taller officer's belt crackled to life. "Dispatch, Unit 17, be advised, the reporting party has called back and requested you stand down. States the issue has been resolved overnight and no further action needed." Stand down? After sending police to our door? The officers looked at each other, then at us. The taller one finally sighed. "Folks, it appears this may have been a misunderstanding. We'll document the withdrawal of the complaint and close the call." But Sarah wasn't letting them off that easy. "Before you go, can you confirm for us, did dispatch mention anything about the complainant providing badge numbers or officer names when she requested the response?" The shorter officer frowned. "Actually, yeah, she gave very specific details, said 2 officers would be arriving in a marked unit, even described the car." My blood turned to ice. How would Karen know exactly which unit was coming and what the officers looked like, unless— Sarah finished my thought out loud. "Unless she has access to police dispatch information she shouldn't have. Or—" she paused, letting the implication hang. The officers went quiet, really quiet. Then the taller one spoke, voice low. "We're not from the local precinct. We're private security contractors the HOA occasionally hires for compliance assistance. Mrs. Thompson has an account with our firm." Private security, not real police. They were wearing authentic-looking uniforms, driving a car with official-looking markings, flashing badges that looked real from a distance, but they weren't actual cops. Sarah's eyes flashed with fury, but her voice stayed perfectly level. "So Karen hired you to impersonate police officers to intimidate us over a garage door?" The shorter one shifted uncomfortably. "We're licensed security, ma'am. We identify ourselves as such when asked. We never said we were law enforcement." I exploded. "You showed up in uniform with a patrol car talking about citations and liens. You let us believe you were real police." The taller one raised a hand. "Sir, we're leaving now. The complaint has been withdrawn. We won't be back." They turned toward the door, but Sarah stepped in front. "One more thing. Your company name and license number, please. I'll need it for the report we're filing." They hesitated, then the taller one pulled out a business card and handed it over without a word. "Apex Compliance Services," and at the bottom, "Serving Willow Creek HOA exclusively." As they walked out, I saw Karen's car, a white Lexus, idling 2 houses down. She was watching the whole thing. When the fake officers climbed into their car and drove away, she pulled out right after them. Sarah closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling for the first time. "Alex," she said quietly, "this isn't about the garage anymore." I nodded, heart still racing, because we both knew Karen had just crossed a line that could land her in serious legal trouble. But what we didn't know yet, what we'd discover in the next 24 hours, was why she was willing to risk everything to get inside that garage. And trust me, the reason was 1,000 times worse than we ever imagined. After the fake officers drove away, Sarah and I stood in the living room staring at each other, the business card from Apex Compliance Services still in her hand. The house felt too quiet, like the calm before a storm you can actually feel in your bones. Sarah finally broke the silence. "We're pulling the security footage, all of it, and then we're calling the real police." I nodded, but my mind was already racing ahead. Why go this far? Fake tops? Impersonation? Trespassing? Just for a garage door? It didn't make sense. Karen had always been petty, but this was criminal. There had to be something in that garage she desperately wanted access to, or wanted to make sure we never noticed. We sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop and pulled up the full Ring and Nest camera archives from the last month. Sarah scrolled through the driveway and garage feeds while I checked the street view. At first, it was just the usual: delivery drivers, dog walkers, kids on bikes. Then Sarah froze the video on a timestamp from 3 weeks ago, 2:17 a.m. There was Karen, in dark clothing instead of her usual pastels, no pearls, hair tied back. She was crouched by our side gate, shining a flashlight into the gap under the garage door. She did the same thing 4 more nights over the next 2 weeks, always between 1 and 3 a.m., always checking if the door was open even a crack. On 2 occasions, she actually tried to lift it by hand, but the new smart opener auto-locked after 10 minutes, so she failed. But the real shock came from a different camera angle, the one inside the garage that I'd installed to monitor my Mustang rebuild. We rarely checked it because it only recorded on motion. Sarah clicked into its folder, and there it was, a clip from last night, 11:47 p.m. The garage door was closed, but someone was inside. A figure in black moved quickly between the shelves, flashlight beams sweeping over toolboxes and storage bins. They stopped at the far back wall, pushed aside a stack of old moving boxes Sarah hadn't unpacked yet, and pulled out a small black duffel bag we'd never seen before. The person unzipped it, checked inside, zipped it back up, and shoved it deep behind the water heater, exactly where it had been hidden. The figure turned toward the camera for just a second while adjusting the bag. Blonde hair escaped the hood. It was Karen. My stomach dropped. She'd been inside our garage before, somehow, and planted something. All those open door complaints, they weren't about safety. They were to create a paper trail justifying forced entry or inspection so she could retrieve whatever was in that bag without raising suspicion. Sarah's voice was shaking now. "We're not opening that bag. We call the police right now and let them handle it." I dialed 911 and explained everything. HOA harassment, fake officers, trespassing, possible planted evidence. The dispatcher sounded stunned and said actual detectives would be over within the hour. While we waited, we kept digging through footage for answers. That's when we found the very first break-in, 6 months ago, the weekend we'd gone to visit Sarah's parents overnight. The garage sensor had glitched that night, the original reason we upgraded, and Karen had slipped in unnoticed. She'd hidden the bag then and had been panicking ever since that we might discover it during my car project or spring cleaning. 2 real officers arrived, this time with actual badges and a marked City PD cruiser. We showed them everything, the footage, the fake officer card, the withdrawn complaint. They secured the garage as a potential crime scene and carefully retrieved the duffel. Inside, 23 individually wrapped bricks of what field tested positive for cocaine, plus a burner phone and a ledger with names, dates, and dollar amounts. Street value easily over $400,000. Karen wasn't just an HOA tyrant. Her husband had died 2 years earlier, officially a heart attack, but rumors had always swirled about shady business dealings. Turns out he'd been a mid-level distributor, and Karen had inherited his final stash. She'd hidden it in our garage the day we moved in, planning to move it slowly once things cooled off. But then we actually lived here full-time, started using the garage, and she got scared we'd find it. Every violation notice, every fine, every complaint about the door, it was all to force us to either move or give her legal cover to inspect and retrieve the drugs. When we fixed the door and stayed put, she panicked and hired those fake cops as a last desperate intimidation tactic. By evening, Karen was in cuffs. The detectives told us she broke down almost immediately, sobbing about how she just wanted to protect her family's future. The entire neighborhood watched as her white Lexus was towed for evidence processing. The HOA board dissolved her presidency that same night in an emergency vote. Fines were refunded, violation records expunged. Neighbors we barely knew stopped by with apologies and casseroles. Sarah and I sat on our front porch later, watching the stars come out over Willow Creek. She squeezed my hand and said, "Remind me to always let them talk first." I laughed for the first time all day. Because yeah, her calm question to those fake officers started the whole unraveling. One polite invitation to explain themselves, and Karen's whole house of cards collapsed. We still live here. The garage door works perfectly now, and we even leave it open sometimes, just to mess with whatever new HOA busybody might be watching. But mostly, life is peaceful again. And every time a new neighbor moves in, we tell them the story. Not to scare them, just to remind them that sometimes the biggest threats in a neighborhood wear pearls and carry clipboards. But they never last long when someone finally asks the right questions.
If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every single subscription motivates me to bring you even more exciting and dramatic HOA stories. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. I'll see you in the next story, where justice gets even more satisfying.